Welcome to it. Sunday Live is here with the Average Joe Sports Show, the Iron Horse, Gary Sharp, Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt. We're going to go a little old school here.
We could barely hear that, but it works.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure that it included Jack Hughes scoring the golden goal.
It was. That's exactly what was it. We'll be better next time. Right? But how about that? USA getting it done in hockey overtime. Sharpie, you've been in the hockey world a long time. And Elijah, you like some puck yourself, more of a casual guy, but got to love USA making it happen. First time since 1980 getting the gold, and all the Joes in the stream were watching as well.
Well, how about it's February 22nd. So February 22nd has a specific date in the 1980 Olympics. Today is February 22nd, 2026. First of all, it's a great thing. Like, I love morning sports, whether it be like the Olympics, some March Madness, some golf. Because it seems like collectively we're all watching it. And when it's red, white, and blue, and you're playing with the drama that USA and Canada hockey seems to always deliver, I think it makes even more. But this just shows you the beauty of that sport. First of all, two other things about the way the sport was presented today. And I'm glad, we've gone the last two Olympics without the NHL players playing. And this is a monumental thing for USA hockey, which has been on the uptick for a while. If you look at women's hockey winning a gold, World Juniors, more American-born players or higher NHL draft picks and making a mark in the NHL. So USA hockey has been on the uptick. But, it's not – 1980 will always be different because they were the underdogs and the USSR was in there and the Russians and they were college kids. This is different, but this is monumental for USA hockey. But NBC presenting this commercial free was the way to do it. I thought they presented today great, and collectively we're all watching this. But look at this. Look at the dynamic of the gold medal game and winning the gold in the United States. It is complete failure for Canada. You cannot get away from that up there, okay? Connor McDavid, as some like to call him Connor McJesus, might be the best NHL player going, but he's come up short in the Stanley Cup. Now he's come up short in the gold medal game. And there's a lot of people on him for a move he made in overtime when you're playing 3-on-3 and you have more one-on-one type play. But up there, it's failure. If Canada would have won this game, and in all rights they should have, except for Hellebuck, who stood on his head, and the ice was tilted for basically 2 of the 3 periods in this game. In the U.S., if we would have lost this, we would have moved on. It would have been disappointment today. You'd talk about it tomorrow on your radio shows, but then you'd move on, unless you're in the hockey world. But now we're going to hold this over the Canucks for a long time. But there's also the dynamic of a guy like Hellebuck. He plays for the Winnipeg Jets, okay? He just destroyed their country in the gold medal game. He's got to go back and play for Winnipeg as a gold medalist for the United States of America. That's the dynamic of having NHL players that just went toe-to-toe representing their country this morning, is that they got to go back and be teammates again. And that's not going to be easy, especially if you're Canadian. I love it.
And there's going to be so many moments that Canadians, and specifically guys in that Canadian national team. McKinnon, I'm a big Avs fan, as you guys probably know. Love Nathan McKinnon. I love Cale Makar. Not today. That opportunity late whenever McKinnon in the third period had an open net and he shot it wide. That one is going to be one of those moments that eats at him for years and years and years. Incredible. As I have in my little byline here, Connor Hellebuck, an American hero with how he played today. That was, as a whole, a game that represented gritty beats pretty. Canada's got so many players that just play a beautiful brand of hockey with McDavid, with Macklin Celebrini, McKinnon, Cale Makar. So many guys in that team just play the pretty brand of hockey, but the United States got the Kachucks, and those are some gritty mother effers, just guys that want to hit stick. You have Hughes playing through his tooth is snapped in half, and he's going and scoring the game-winning goal. Just a gritty freaking hockey team. That was a gritty freaking win today.
That was outstanding. I was a little too young, just a couple of years old when 1980 happened. So it's all Al Michaels, it's all Kurt Russell, right? And it's all highlights.
Yeah.
For me, but this was outstanding to see, and you can puff your chest out a little bit larger today.
Everybody go ahead and be a hockey fan. You know what? Because you're a fan of the USA in the Olympics. And this was fantastic. Look at this. Probably 5 of the best goals ever on that stage have happened in 2 Olympics. So the greatest Olympic goal of all time is Eruzione. And look at 46 years later, he's still representing the U.S. He's on the broadcast today. I mean, in 46 years, are we going to still have Jack Hughes around? Wouldn't surprise me. I mean, look at his post-game interview with Catherine Tappan. You've got Mark Johnson had 2 monster goals in the gold medal game against Finland at the end of the first period, and then in the third period when the U.S. scored 3. You have Megan Keller's goal the other day for the U.S. women to win the gold, and now you have Jack Hughes' goal. I mean, it's just it's great for the sport. And you know, I don't know what it does for the growth of the sport. I think women's professional hockey, women's college hockey, women's high school hockey has a higher ceiling. But hockey in this country has shifted away from the 3 M's. It used to be, when I first got into the sport, Minnesota, Michigan, Massachusetts. That's where everybody came from. And then as the sport, and especially with the NHL going to Sunbelt states, started to grow and more hockey rinks were being built and there were more opportunities because it's not cheap. It's not cheap to play hockey. You've seen it grow across the country. And I think you've seen the U.S. national program, which has a team in the USHL. You know, they've slowly grown. It's been a process because you're behind Canada. But look on the world stage, what they've done with men's and women's juniors all the way up to this stage. Man, USA Hockey is in such a good spot right now, and this just validates it to win a gold over Canada. And as you alluded to, Elijah, man, Canada was loaded. But there's the other part about this beautiful sport. It shows you that there's a thing called puck luck, and the team that dominates doesn't always win in this sport. It can take a bounce of a puck, not being able to hold it into the blue line, and it creates a breakaway or a giveaway, and you bang it into the top of the net, you go top shelf. I mean, it's one of those things where if you just looked and you said, man, Canada should be winning this 4-1. Yeah, but they had a goalie that dictated the game and stood on his head, and they got one opportune time, and Jack Hughes put it in the net. And it's fantastic. It's going to be so awesome to talk about this. I don't know if kids will talk about it like we did when the 80 Olympic team, but man, in 2026, USA won both women's and men's gold medal. How about that?
And they won them both over Canada in overtime.
Yeah.
Both instances. And that's how you you knifed Canada in this Olympics, but that's twisting the knife for Canada whenever you get both men's and women's in overtime in the gold medal game.
There's a whole bunch of salt in that wound as well.
I'll throw another one on there. I mean, a Canadian hockey team has not won the Stanley Cup since the 93 Canadians. Remember, it's their sport. We're just borrowing it, right?
Well, a boot. It's no more lease right now. You've got that gold to hang forever.
Anyway, we got a guy, Jake Gensel, who played at Omaha, is the first Omaha Maverick grad to get a medal in the Olympics.
That's big.
I mean, it's just it's a great story, and then you top it off the Johnny Gaudreau story, and how they kept his memory alive, and how the world of hockey has kept that family, the brothers, the parents are there, his widow is there, his sister is there in attendance, and for his teammates to keep his memory alive and to have his jersey, and that jersey will always be in the team photo. I mean, come on. It just continues to get better. The other thing, that has come out, and I guess it didn't dawn on me, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, that the coaches don't get a gold medal.
Yeah.
Like Mike Sullivan, who I loved with the Penguins until he kind of ran out of gas and moved on. He doesn't get a gold medal as the head coach of the U.S. men's team. Robolowski for the women doesn't get a gold medal. The coaches don't get a medal. It's just the players, not even the staff.
I don't know, man. I think that should be revisited, don't you?
I didn't know it was a thing. I thought as a coach you got a medal.
I learned this yesterday with the women's hockey team because the coach was asking if he could wear one of the medals, kind of half jokingly. I didn't realize the coach didn't get it either. That being said, I don't think you necessarily need a medal to be like a gold medalist. If that makes sense. That's still going to be something that you have on your resume for the entire rest of your life, regardless if you have the medal. And based on the quality of the medals at these Olympics, they're probably going to break in the next 24 hours anyway. So.
Well, there's that. So
these might be the cheapest gold medals ever.
Where do you throw, or where are they throwing the victory parade?
I don't know, because the NHL season. The NHL season starts back up on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. Oh, I think that party and parade is going on in Italy tonight at the closing ceremonies. I don't know. Like that's a good question. Like, do we have a parade in this country for the Olympic hockey teams? Do you take them to Detroit? Do you take them to Hockey Town?
You get gold. You should.
I'm sorry.
Be cheered through the streets.
Something about that seems like a punishment. Actually, a parade in Detroit.
Well, I mean, that was a Hockey Town. Like the dynamic of having NHL guys. Like, I'm a Penguin fan. I'm worried about Sid the Kid's injury, but I didn't want to see him win gold. Okay. I kind of, there was a part of me, there's a little piece of me is like, I'm glad that Sid's sad and he didn't play the last two games because he would have made a difference. But again, like the Hellebuck thing is a weird dynamic because they're super passionate in Winnipeg, but they're Canadian. They got beat in the gold medal game. And the guy they have to root for between the pipes is a guy that prevented them from winning gold. How great is that?
And do you see what the Winnipeg Jets tweeted? Whenever Cale Makar scored, it was let's see, with sincerest apologies to Connor Hellebuck. What a goal, Cale Makar! Let's freaking go, Canada. and Sharpie, to your point as well, you talked about Sid the Kid. As an Avs guy, maybe McKinnon and Makar have a little extra fuel for the fire for the Stanley Cup run for the Avs.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at the bright side. It was difficult for me watching because I've never had to sit there and watch Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar play against my team. That's been a blessing because now that I got to experience that today, that is stressful. I don't like it when those guys have the puck in the offensive zone whenever they're playing against you. Very fun to watch them if they're on your team, but man, is it stressful every single time those guys have the puck. I'm hoping that's the fuel for the fire for another Avalanche Stanley Cup run.
Hey, would you rather win, and now that we see more pros that are participating in the Olympics, and this is a question that's been asked kind of probably ad nauseum, would you rather win a gold medal for your country or the championship in your respective sport?
I think the aura of doing it for your country has to be tops. If you love your country and you know how long it takes to train and make, and it's every 4 years, championships are so hard to win. But the fact you get a gold they're both forever, but there's just a much heavier weight and impact with gold. Well, don't you agree?
It's one thing to make the fan base of a team happy. It's another thing to make an entire country happy.
Bigger picture.
Mm-hmm. I agree. As we shift from hockey into, I know we'll get to what happened at PBA yesterday. I got another would you, because I was thinking about this because we had a couple of four-time champions in the state wrestling in Omaha yesterday. Would you rather win a state championship individual in wrestling or win the 100-meter dash in the all-class state track and field? Would you rather be a state champion in wrestling or considered the fastest boy or girl in the state of Nebraska?
I think that all-class thing's pretty impressive.
That's a tough – for me, I was never fast. I'm still not fast. So the idea of being the fastest person is so out of this world for me that it's hard for me to even imagine winning the 100-meter dash in anything. But man, the state wrestling, that's like a mono physical sport. There's something special about that. I might go with the wrestling side of things, and that's probably just because I could never imagine winning a race of any kind in terms of foot speed. But wrestling's special. I mean, the moments that those guys have after a long season, it's mano-a-mano. Yeah. So many of those guys, it's not just a 10-second. It's a battle of conditioning that lasts for months, that leads you up to that moment. It's hard to go past that.
I couldn't finish the race, dude, let alone win it. So we need to stop and get water and more inhaler treatment, and that's my thing. But a couple of family members have won their weight class once upon a time. My brother-in-law, Uncle Andy, the state champ at Amherst, and then his brother Mitch Lundstrom also were both state wrestling champs. So
that's winning a 4-time state champion, because I think it's now a fraternity of 40. Damn, that's impressive to go through your entire high school career and you always end with a championship, and then some of those in that 40 never lost, like a Tyson Terry from last year.
That's incredible. The unbeaten streak kind of goes back to just what, to put it to football, what Polar Bear ended up doing, which was incredible. Going at the college level, because his high school career was untouchable up in South Dakota.
Yeah. By the way, shout out to Andrell Taylor, now 70 career wins at Nebraska in their duel against Utah Valley.
Do we think Mark Manning is already making calls to the Crawford family?
Hey, that's a trivia question. Dad and son both have won in that building. Dad has boxed in the CHI, and now his son has won. Little T is interesting, man. He cut down to 106, and he turned it on. He's got some swag of his dad. But man, this is when I feel old. I remember when he was a little bit smaller. Yeah, but cool that Dad and now that Bud's retired, I think people in Omaha see Bud everywhere. Cool to see him being dad. And I think he knows how to be dad with his son and let his son have a moment. But cool for Omaha North. You know, when I first moved to Nebraska a while back, Omaha North, Curly Alexander, I mean, they were rolling. They were the premier wrestling program. And they're not on that level, but they're still extremely successful. So cool to see them get an individual state champion.
And I'll add to this. I think it's very cool, and this kind of speaks to Bud Crawford and how involved he is with Omaha. A guy with that kind of money, I love the fact that he's still sending his kids to public school. That's a little thing, but it's also not. Like the fact that he is sending his kids to the neighborhood school, sending them up to Omaha North, that says something about the type of person and the type of dad and the type of Omaha citizen that Bud Crawford is. And it also speaks to how good public schools are in Nebraska. Let me also lay that one out. But sending the kids off to a public school, you can read into that, and it says something about who Bud is as a father and as a person.
Yep.
Elijah Herbel, that's the Iron Horse. Gary Sharp, Chris Schmidt, the Sunday Live Average Joe Sports Show. We may, time difference, be getting a concert review from the Pride of Fairbury, Bill Dolman. He is on assignment in Vegas. Saw the Eagles last night. Hopefully Dolman's having a Bloody Mary with his college bros in Vegas, celebrating the gold today with the U.S. taking down Canada. Celebratory mood at PBA. Sharpie, we were both there. And what a difference some whistles make, right? You had some freedom of movement, plenty of airspace. Nebraska looked like Nebraska on the hardwood, and it was really cool to see Price do his thing. Great minutes from Garcia, which was nice. Sam dishing out assists. They had to play a man down with no Berkay. Penn State's not very good, but Nebraska was able to do whatever they wanted. And it was good to see Nebraska kind of get their mojo back. And some things that were addressed during the week, right, from Fred with, talking to Frager, get that edge back. He looked better. The question right now is, how tweaked is Jamarcus's ankle? Moving forward, you got Maryland on Wednesday and then the West Coast trip. Elijah, we got to see that just crazy finish last night out at UCLA with the overtime, and Illinois falling. What a week Mick Cronin's had for UCLA. So it is all sorts of drama in the Big Ten. Michigan falls to Duke yesterday in that Washington, D.C. battle. And with the CBS unveiling, kind of what we thought, fellas, where Nebraska would notch in right in at that 3-seed line, number 11. Can you kind of get an uptick going with how you're playing? And fellas, yesterday helped Nebraska as they want to kind of finish out the right way.
Yeah, we talked about it. Elijah brought it up, the spread 18.5, and we said, and I said, I think this will be a Nebraska will look closer to what we think they're supposed to look like, because Penn State isn't very good, and I think the very sneaky stat in all these years, this whole season and metrics, is Nebraska is 17-0, quad 2, 3, and 4 games. That's a sign of progress. They haven't had a bad loss. They haven't had a hiccup. They usually take care of business in those games. Let me ask you guys this before we get deep into some individuals about yesterday. If Nebraska goes 3-1 to finish the regular season, and yesterday was a good day, they're number 11 overall in the reveal 3 weeks out from today. So they're a number 3 seed. They didn't give a location, but yesterday was a good day. Nebraska took care of business. They didn't really mess around with Penn State. They had stretches where they disappeared for a while, but they still won comfortably. Iowa State lost. Kansas lost. Kansas is probably in the running for a St. Louis or Oklahoma City. You sit where you're at. You look at who's around you. You pay attention to Gonzaga, Texas Tech, Michigan State, Alabama, Florida. You got to pay attention to teams that could maybe steal your 3 seed if you have a hiccup. But if Nebraska goes 3-1 to finish the regular season, and a win against Maryland and a win against Iowa are guaranteed in the bookend, and you finish, ironically, like that 90-91 team that was a number 3 seed, you get 26 wins, and you go into the Big Ten tournament, you think 3-1 finish, as long as it's a win against Maryland, a win against Iowa on your home floor, split in Los Angeles, you're guaranteed a number 3 seed before you ever hit Chicago?
I think you are. I think if you put a run together and you stay in that top 4, so you're automatically getting the double bye. Too many teams have drained their energy in the Big Ten tournament, some fighting for their life to get into the dance, right? Yeah. How far do you want Nebraska to go in Chicago's, a popular question. But first things first, to be honest right now, I think to hold on to that 3 seed and listen, bad loss last night by Kansas at home to Cincinnati. Really bad loss.
Not an NCAA team.
Right. And I think Nebraska needs to win out to keep the 3 seed. I think is up and down as USC is. They have some wins. I think they won at Purdue. Maybe they didn't. I don't. They have a handful of wins, but they also have a ton of head scratching losses. You go get UCLA. I mean, they're really tough at home, but I think Nebraska needs to go do that to hold on to this 3, despite what else is happening around them. Just kind of re-solidify in concrete where you are as a 3 seed. Don't give them any reason to drop you because of how your last 6 to 10 games have gone.
Nebraska
don't allow that penalty.
There's still no bad losses, and that's the key to me moving forward. Like, Illinois goes on the road. Optically, it's a bad loss, but UCLA is a team that, that kind of felt
41 in the net.
It kind of felt similar to Nebraska going out to Iowa, and Iowa needed that signature win to kind of go lock up a spot in the tournament. Kind of feels the same with UCLA. Then they are a little more on the bubble, but they needed a signature win like that game to go and kind of get themselves squarely into NCAA tournament consideration. And it just speaks to what this time of year is, and that your teams at the top, they're already kind of looking ahead to March, and you have a lot of teams that are hovering around that bubble line that need some signature wins. A loss to a team such as that feels completely different than if Nebraska were to go and lose to Maryland, or if they would have lost to Penn State. If you can avoid those bad losses, even if you go split your West Coast road trip, I think you need to get one back against Iowa. If you go 0-2 against Iowa, would it hurt your seed line? Yeah, a little bit, but would Husker fans feel great about it? Absolutely not. Would the team feel great about it? No, that's not the kind of momentum you want going into March. To me, it's just all about avoiding those bad losses.
Yeah.
And the game that stands out is like you could live with it is UCLA because there's a chance they might need another big one. I think it does help Nebraska. They got a signature type win last night, and did they get the win or did Illinois lose it? I don't know. It's kind of that chicken or the egg conversation, but it helps Nebraska that UCLA has that signature win under their belt now. That's the game you circle as like that's a forgivable one, probably in the eyes of the committee. But other than that, Nebraska needs to get some wins. I still think 3 seed line is easily attainable for them, even with the loss. But we shall see. It kind of depends on what happens elsewhere. Like who had Illinois chalked up to lose that one last night in the way they did? Who had Kansas chalked up to go lose a game to a not very good Cincinnati team? Like it's college basketball this time of year. It gets wild.
That's why when they put together in less than 3 weeks, Price Sanford as first team All Big Ten and Fred Hoiberg as the coach of the year, I hope they mention that they went 17-0 so far in quad 2, 3, and 4. Because they haven't had that bad loss. I still think a 3-1 stretch to finish. Again, as long as you bookend it, you win at home against Maryland, and you got to beat Iowa because Iowa's net, last I checked, was 25. And it wouldn't be a bad loss, but you want to hold serve at home. I think you go to Chicago, you're locked into a 3. There's been a long discussion about how much of an impact the high major conference tournaments make on the higher seeds. Like, are most of those teams locked into their seed before they ever get to their conference tournament? Because remember about the Big Ten kind of butts up to the Selection Sunday. So they lock in a lot of the top teams in the Big Ten already. It's the teams that are on the fringe or trying to move up a line. So I think if Nebraska goes 3-1, I think they're locked into a 3 seed before they ever play in Chicago. And, if you look at it, 3-1 to finish the year could get you that bye to Friday, You don't want to leave a lasting impression of a loss to Iowa at the end of the regular season, a loss to in the conference tournament, your first game. But if you can win at the end of the season against Iowa and you go to the conference tournament and you get to Saturday, I mean, you're feeling good as a 3 seed. And then you never know what happens. Maybe you get hot and you're playing on Sunday and maybe you win the conference tournament and somebody goes, man, should they be better than a 3 seed? But I think 3-1, you're a 3 seed, and you're going to take it, you're going to live with it, and you're going to be like, okay, we're 3 verse 14 to begin. Now let's look at our path.
If they put a run together to end this regular season, they get to Chicago, and they have a chance at a little revenge tour. Maybe they get a shot at Purdue again. Maybe they get the rubber match against Illinois. I think that could bump them. I mean, I think if they win out, and this is further down the road. If they win out in Chicago and are your Big Ten conference champions, it's got to bump them all the way up to a 2, doesn't it? Isn't that just easy, a no-brainer? Where your conference champ, Michigan.
That 2 looks pretty tight. I think. I mean, we could probably just say this: Nebraska is going to be either a 3 or 4. We don't expect them to collapse in the last 4 games, so they're either going to be a 3 or 4, right?
I think they're in 4. I think they're in 4 seed danger of slipping down there. If they go 0 out in the West Coast, that's when they fall to 4. Yeah. I don't think they fall beyond a 4. Honestly.
Yeah. I think it's a 3
they won't lose
or 4.
to Maryland. They won't lose to Iowa at home, and just I don't know who would you have them rather beat out west if they have to split, UCLA or USC?
Well,
UCLA's net is higher.
Yeah, UCLA is a more forgivable loss.
Yep.
Quick question here, and this is probably looking too far ahead, but you talked about the path to a potential 2, which would probably be win out and go win the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. Do you, as a Husker basketball fan, want this team? I mean, obviously going and winning a Big Ten tournament would be great, but do you worry about potential fatigue factor if they do and go win the Big Ten?
What's the risk, right, versus the reward?
Yeah, win 3 games in 3 days, then turn around and have to play potentially on a Thursday in the NCAA tournament. That you put it perfectly. The risk v. reward. Would it be better for Nebraska to go one and done in Chicago and get recuperated before you go off to whatever your first round venue is going to be?
I think if you're a Nebraska fan, you want them get hot going into the tournament.
Yeah. I think that's tough as a player. Like, you just play the game, and if you get on a roll, you get on a roll. I mean, if you're stretched and you have to play you back-to-back games, at least in the NCAA tournament, you get a day off in between. Maybe that forces you to play Garcia a little bit more, to play Curtis. Berke, just an illness, so he should be back on Wednesday night. But let's start. Let's go from the back and move to the front before we get to what Sanford did. Because we talked about it yesterday. Jared Garcia, because Nebraska is a 7-man team.
Mm-hmm.
Garcia is their 8th guy. I don't think they don't have a trust tree much past that, and I don't know how much trust they have for Jared Garcia playing 19 minutes in a big time game. But if they could, if he just plays the garbage pail guy that grabs boards and his points come from cleanups, isn't that the most ideal situation? But I don't know, guys, if I trust him more than 10 minutes.
Early on what you're going to get, I think. Are you forcing it or are you just reacting? And against Illinois and yesterday, he knew his job was to get the rebounds, to get some putbacks, block some shots. I mean, his efficiency was incredible. 7 rebounds, 3 blocks in that many minutes for him. He's been challenged. He has 5 fouls to use. Yes, yeah. I know. But no, I mean, he's mobile. He's athletic. He's tough. I mean, he's got to kind of be that guy that he was against Illinois and was yesterday against Penn State for this team to put a run together in March. Now,
just be a garbage pail guy.
It's good to see it rather, later than not at all. So he needs to really hug that role and move forward with it.
All right, Rink Mast. Where are we at with Rink yesterday? He was 4 of 10. He was 0 for 2 from 3, 8 points, 6 rebounds.
He was possessed that first half, Sharpie and Elijah, with getting the rebounds. I loved his effort on the interior. I loved him all over. He looked very decisive to get those missed shots. That's what I want to see from him. He needs to score, yes, or be more efficient, but the rebounding part, that physicality part, he wasn't messing around yesterday. That was a good response game for Rink, in my opinion, with how they got crushed on the glass at Iowa. I needed to see that from Rink yesterday, and I did on the glass. Points, they're not a bonus for him. He needs to be one of your top scorers, but he's still a bit of a threat. And the way Price was going, man, you're good. The way Frager was going, kind of looked like the old Frager. That's all right. Jamarcus was there. Sam will give you double digits. And get the physicality, the rebounding, that want to get all the missed shots. I'm good there. I was fine with his performance yesterday.
I'm with Kobe here. I like how he attacked the basket instead of settling for deep threes. That says it well.
You got to finish.
It's an improved performance. I'll also say I liked the limited minutes I saw from Leo Curtis. And that's been actually consistent. I liked what he showed against Michigan. I know he had some injury issues in the last week or so, but I liked what he put together. And I wonder if he can be a guy that can carve himself out some minutes down the stretch of this season. And we can all admit Mast has not been early season Mast. What you're just hoping for is you want B average Mast, if you get what I'm saying. Like you just want the
so Mast. I can't be fully.
Yeah. You want it to be semi, semi-masted,
flaccid.
No, you don't want flaccid mast. But I liked what I saw from Leo.
We just gave Kent a great line.
I'll also add, from what I have heard, sources on the ground, I know Jamarcus Lawrence left that game early. It sounds like he was walking around post game yesterday without a boot or any sort of assistance, and looks like that his whatever injury that he is dealing with right now will not be a long-term issue just based on how he looked yesterday after the game. So I know that's a small sample size, and I'm sure there's some more recovery and testing that needs to be done, but it doesn't sound like that's going to be a long-term issue that's going to affect Nebraska into March.
Yeah, by the way, speaking of J-Law, and yesterday he attacked. I liked it. I can see as they've gotten into the season and they're not playing as many guys, I want them to push the ball. They do walk the ball up the floor a little bit more. And then once they get into their offense is pretty dynamic. I'd like him to push it a little bit more, but I understand this time of the year they're settling more into their half-court offense. I think another guy yesterday, and we didn't know at the time that Berke was ill, and that was the ideal game for him not to play against Penn State. But playing Frager, I think I noticed one thing, and Fred alluded to this on the postgame that he had a talk with Frager, and he wants the fearless Frager back. They did a really good job of getting Frager an early touch. Like, off the bench, there's sometimes it feels like he's got limited minutes, and so he's got to score right away. Okay? It looked like yesterday he let himself get into the flow of the game, and he let himself get into the flow of the game by attacking the basket, whether it be with the dribble or going to the boards, because he got a couple of key boards in that game. He looked a lot more comfortable, and he looked like he was not afraid to put the ball on the floor and try and get to the rim and absorb contact or get a free look for a lay-in. And his three was falling. I think as we watch him, and I think he'll go back to the bench because I think Nebraska is so desperate for offense. Look at when it was the slugfest early on, he got 2 fouls and they kept him on the floor because they didn't have a lot of offensive options. So I would put him back on the bench because when you bring him in, that can be instant offense. But I think watch him as it moves forward. Does he allow himself to get into the flow of the game, or does he try and dictate the flow? Because I thought yesterday they let him get lathered up, and then they got him an early touch, and they said, "Okay, get going." But I thought him attacking the boards helped the rest of his game, because if you get his performance yesterday, you'll take that. I mean, you can live with that, and you can be successful with what he was giving you yesterday.
His ability to kind of crash the glass and be dynamic that way. He's a good option to get to the rim, him and Jamarcus, your two guys along with Sam. But no, he made it pretty high intent to go get some of those misses. And it fed into his kind of flow and rhythm of the game. So he's super athletic, got great size, and let him go attack, man. Don't be timid. Don't wait too much, and do what Fred was telling you, man, and be that fearless Frager, that guy that's going to go after it. And he makes Nebraska different for sure, not only with his when he's on from three, but just that other body. And that's, when you don't have Berke, that's one thing Berke's been good at this year is the offensive glass, keeping some possessions alive. A lot of those hustle plays, you needed someone to step in and do that for you, and Frager did it.
By the way, should Penn State in the third year of a head coach be as poor as they are? That might be the toughest job in the Big Ten. But look again, as we talked yesterday, that was a terrible matchup for them. They don't communicate on defense. They don't rotate.
Throw the ball away.
They don't they don't like on ball defense. Like I watching them, and Mingo is a good player. Reed seems like he's been there forever, but they're in the third year of a head coach, and they look like a team that was in the first year. I don't know if Penn State should be that bad. And I know it's a tough job. You play in a mausoleum. It's not even in the top 3 or 4 sports on your campus. But that's a bad basketball team. Now, Nebraska handled business. I'm not taking away from Nebraska. That's a bad Penn State team.
There's questions in the stream. How does Penn State's team compare to Fred's 7-22 squad?
I mean, I think they're all valid questions.
Yeah.
Look at it. Penn State. So football is number 1. Wrestling is number 2. Hell, wrestling might be, football is the king, but wrestling is the dominant. Then you have hockey. Then you have volleyball. Men's basketball is what, 4th, 5th on that campus? That's tough.
In a good year.
Yeah. It says, good on, the dominant power that's not going anywhere called Penn State wrestling. And the Pagulas fronting the hockey program with Gavin McKenna, who will be the next upcoming star in the world of hockey. But, man, I don't know. I watched them yesterday, and I thought, man, they should not be this poor this late in the season. And Nebraska put them in a bind. Fred must have looked at film of Penn State on what Nebraska does, and he must have just been like, that's what he should have been doing during the scouting report, because you looked, they were that's you brought up Sanford got calls early. It's because Penn State was lazy. They didn't. Sanford was beating them to spots, and the only way to stop him was to foul him. I don't know. I was just watch Penn State on TV, watch them in person. I had a bad team.
Sigh of relief from Price as well with those early whistles. It's going to be a good day, right? Where I can move. I'm not getting mugged. And then he was so decisive on the catch and shoot, and he had some room to breathe. And he just was ready to have it going, moving around, was super confident. And I think that confidence grew because you got a couple early whistles.
It's not a total shock to the system to see Penn State be bad at basketball. It's Maryland, your next opponent. They're garbage. And that's a little bit more of a shock to the system to see Maryland be as bad as they are this year.
Yeah, it's gone sideways for them. They did get Iowa, but you've got some teams right now at this point in the year that are just waiting for the year to end. All right, nothing to see here. Can we just play this thing out and then get to the off season? Can I find a new team?
It is tough to win on the road in the Big Ten. Washington lost at Maryland yesterday, and Washington was trying to make themselves an NCAA team. Maryland will put up more of a test against Penn State, and Buzz Williams can still coach, but Maryland has been hurt by moving to the Big Ten out of the ACC with their built-in rivalries. But Maryland has had their moments of being really, really good. It's just tough to win on the road in the Big Ten. That's plain and simple. And when you're not a very good team and you come into a place, and PBA was rocking yesterday for a 1:00 game. You were just that was set up to be a blowout like that. And fortunately for a lot of us, Nebraska covered that game. So there's the part of as the season comes to an end, and you know how they have Red Cross Day at Nebraska events, and they pass the bucket. I was sitting up in the 300s yesterday. I sat up in 309, by the way, long way away. But I did enjoy the kid eating the popcorn yesterday. It kept showing. They did not pass the bucket up there to keep Sanford around for another year. But I know that those discussions are further down the road than any of us can imagine about retaining your important guys, one that wears 21, one that wears number 5. I don't think, as well as he has played, I don't think there's a threat for him to leave for the NBA. I think his draft stock puts him in the second round and more towards the end of the second round. And if you think about it, wouldn't it be more beneficial in a place that you can tell that he loves, and he's in a system that how can you not love your skill set matched with what Fred does with you? Pay the man his money. He should be the highest paid player in the NIL era of Nebraska basketball next year.
He's proven it. He'll be up there for postseason accolades for sure when it comes to all conference, obviously. But in this system, coming back for a senior year, if that all happens, right, you get your paycheck, but he could be player of the year next year. You build on what you've already done this year. That'd be incredible. That's an advertisement. You've already got a great pitch moving forward for future teams and future players, if you're Fred, based on what you've done this season, but make it sustainable with multiple tournament runs. Start stacking March being what it was during the knee era in that 91 through 95 stretch, right? Yep. And hey, you've identified well out of the portal with your guys the last couple years, going back to when they had Walker and company. Well, you've hit that right note again, and then some with how well this team's gelled and all the parts that work.
And look who you got coming back next year. Your lineup, and I think we talked about it last week. I think Sam Hoiberg will be the hardest guy to replace this upcoming offseason because of what he brings, specifically the defensive end of the floor, but his unselfishness on the offensive end. was it 10 assists for him yesterday? Was it 10 or was it 9?
Yeah.
He finished 10.
No, 11 points, 10
11?
assists. Yep. 11 points, 10 assists.
Like that's the do-it-all nature that he has. He's going to be tough to replace, but you bring back, assuming you keep it together with NIL, Price Sanford, Braden Frager, Burke, you get Oogie back into the fold next season, likely. He gets a clean bill of health. Kale, you have Leo Curtis that gets some minutes. A Sejan. Yes. You bring in Colin Rice. They're really high on Colin Rice.
Rhymes is redshirting.
Rhymes, another guy they're high on. You're probably going to have room for 1 or 2 portal guys, and you'll need to get yourself a point guard to go and replace Sam. Maybe a backup wing type, but your roster for next year is pretty well set. Mm-hmm. And the names I just listed, if your starting lineup is a portal point guard, plus then Price Sanford, Braden Frager, Burke, and then either Leo or Oogie, I mean, that's a lineup that can do some damage next season if you can keep it together.
And that's, it becomes, because we all have this discussion about, Nebraska, because of their success this year, they're going to get a bump in what they're able to use for rev share. People are more interested in helping Fred. We see more cases of bad spending in college basketball this year, of spending so much on your roster and you're just going out and buying pieces. I don't think Fred needs to be given this monster suitcase of cash. I think he needs to be given resources, and then he does what he thinks he should do with those resources, because he looks at fit instead of just grabbing bodies and then saying, hey, let's fit them together. I mean, Sanford is like the prime example of a Fred Hoiberg portal guy. He cost some money, but he wasn't a $4 or $5 million guy. So I think the retaining of players in terms of giving Fred more resources is pretty important. But I think give Fred more money, but let Fred determine what he does with that money in terms of fit, instead of saying, hey, I'm giving you all this money, go out and get a bunch of guys. Because there's too many cases, Kentucky, Washington, Creighton, of poorly spent money where you went and just got guys instead of getting guys that fit. You went and got guys and said, hey, then we'll make them fit. Instead of Fred looked at the portal and you look at guys that he did not get, that he was pursuing, that went elsewhere. They all made sense. They were guys that fit. This is what we do. That's what that guy's strength is. And that's what I'll be very curious on their approach, as you laid out, Elijah, some of the openings they have for next year, of the kind of guys they pursue. Maybe not the top end guys, but the guys that make more sense. And it's just kind of the opposite of football. In football, we want them to go get the top end guys. But when they get the fit guys, we're like, in this case, I think if I looked at Nebraska and they just went and got fit guys instead of the top end guys, I'd be like, yep, because Fred's done that before.
I mean, as I look, like the fit that you need, and obviously personality matters, but one of those pass first point guards and then a defensive minded rebounding wing are like that's the two things that stand out as being potential difference makers for a roster next season. And again, Sam's gonna be difficult to replace, but can you get some of his production in the aggregate offensively with a guy that takes care of the ball, high assist to turnover ratio, pass first, not necessarily looking to score himself? And then that I think a defensive minded Jawan Gary type wing could really benefit coming off of the bench whenever, hey, you got somebody going off on you. You have a Bennett Sturt situation. You can just go bring in a defensive minded wing off the bench and go say, hey, go take care of that guy. Could be good.
Well, and Fred's done a great job of finding that right balance of guys that want to come in and create value for themselves, right? They want to get paid. They want to play pro ball, but their top priority with this team is to win. It's not stats. It's not accolades. They just want to win. And the more you can do that in this NIL era, the better what the priority list reads. And it is win the game, be a good team, and then everything else will take care of itself from a stats and recognition standpoint.
I think we also we don't overlook Mast will be tough to replace, just because Fred has the blueprint of the George Niang offense. And can you find the guy that kind of plays the role of George Niang that starts your offense? And Rinkin has been able to do that in his 2 years that he's played. But back to Sam, like yesterday, sitting around people, Sam is one of those guys that plays the game that we all know his value. Okay. Glue guy, utility guy, most valuable guy, most important guy. But he's the kind of guy that you go, oh man, he just did that. because the lady that was sitting behind me yesterday at PBA, all of a sudden when he got his last assist and they put it up on the board, you know how they run the rebounds, assists, points, rebounds, assists, and personal fouls. She was like, oh, he's got a double-double. And I thought, that's right. He's got a double-double. Sam is like the ultimate, oh, he did that guy. I don't know until we get into the heart of next year if we'll truly realize how difficult it will be to replace like the things that he does that maybe we take for granted or we don't immediately gravitate towards. I mean, that just shows you how valuable he is. And I hope that he is in the running to be Defensive Player of the Year in the Big Ten. I mean, he'll be on the all defensive team. And then it would be even more of a feather in the cap if he's on like the second or third team, all Big Ten.
He has that impact. The peers believe that. He's a headache to deal with if you're the opposition. And his heartbeat, man, is what's so key to this team. Because he just
controlled breathing exercises that he told us about the controlled breathing exercises. That's how he keeps that heart rate so steady.
Well, sure. But I'm just saying he is out there to make it happen for himself and everybody else and get the win. Winding down a Sunday live Average Joe Sports Show. We've hit USA Gold on the ice. Plenty of thoughts on Nebraska. Iowa is at Wisconsin today. That's a sneaky little big game in the Big Ten. Standings are as follows right now with Nebraska in at that fourth spot, tied with Purdue. Purdue with the tiebreaker. Illinois has fallen to 13-4 in conference, 2.5 behind Michigan. Pretty crazy stretch for Michigan, as they'll have Illinois here next weekend. They have a winnable game this week because they have Minnesota coming to town, but they drill Purdue on the road. They lose by 5 to Michigan. They host Minnesota. Then they're at Illinois. It's Friday. They're at Illinois. So that's pretty dangerous. But if you're Michigan right now, you're just flexing despite yesterday's mishap. Purdue on the way down, their finish is interesting as well. They're at Ohio State. They're at Northwestern, and then they host Wisconsin. Wisconsin's cooled off quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, quickly with Michigan, I think if you give them another chance at Duke, Michigan comes out on top. I don't think that the Michigan shooting that we saw yesterday was 6 of 25 from 3 and a lot of very, very good looks. I think if you play that game 10 times, Michigan shoots less than 25% from 3 just once, and you saw that performance last night. That could be the type of game that is beneficial to them come March because of you got to see a top team. On the TV broadcast, I think it was Billis yesterday was saying a potential Final Four preview, and I'd agree with that. Both of those teams are fantastic, and Duke with their younger team, Boozer, they're settling into themselves. They're going to be a really, really tough out in the NCAA tournament. But I wonder if Nebraska could use a non-conference scheduling game such as that on their schedule next year. Maybe not late in the season, like February. This is pretty rare to see. But if they could use on the resume next year, not necessarily for resume purposes, but for learning experience, if they could get a tougher game such as that early in the season in a non-conference type setting and kind of see how the rest of the country operates, because we all know the style of play in the Big Ten is different than the rest of the country. So I wonder if Nebraska goes out and tries to schedule a big dog from another conference early in the season next year to kind of get that learning lesson.
Kansas or Iowa State, who you drafting?
Ooh, I don't think Fred would want to play Iowa State.
Yeah, so give me Kansas.
Okay. I think it'd be.
Hey, bring back the bracket buster. Remember that? That was more for the mid-majors that they'd play in the middle of February. I love that Duke and Michigan played that yesterday. You know, they used to have the SEC and the Big 12 did that challenge, but it was at the end of January, and a lot of coaches pushed back on it because they were in the heart of their conference season. I don't know. I think maybe we get more late season matchups like that if TV gets involved. Because ESPN went all in on that game yesterday in D.C. They had game day there. They were showing Michigan and Duke's warm-ups. They had players on their set, and then they treated it like it was like it should be treated. Duke and Michigan playing last night. I don't know. I think TV could dictate more of those late season. Nebraska's schedule is kind of coming together. They go back to the Pentagon. So that might be, Oklahoma hasn't turned out to be the kind of team that maybe we thought they were going to be in November to help Nebraska's resume. But, maybe Nebraska is able to get another quality opponent when they play up there. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to get people to come to PBA unless you're playing a home and home, or it's set up by the shoe companies or your conference. I don't know how many teams want to walk into PBA and play.
No, you'd be hard pressed to get a home game like that. You don't want to go on the road either. So maybe it's a neutral spot. We have been courted by Wahoo Kurt and the good folks in Wahoo to be up that direction on Selection Sunday.
Ooh, for a live show?
For a live show.
Damn, we'll be bombed.
Well, I might be in Chicago. We shall.
I was going to say, you're in
Right.
Chicago. Sharpie might be.
Yeah, might be. Yeah. Well, you know what? We
got to huddle up on
there. We'll do a live Average Joe show Selection Sunday.
Yeah. We'll select our own bracket. The official one. We'll just make our own team.
Whiskey, beer, vodka region.
Before we get out of here,
No, we're not done. We got lots of stuff to talk about.
Okay,
I got nowhere to go.
I want to ask about Husker baseball.
Must win today.
Do we have a problem with the back end of the bullpen with Husker baseball? Are we just waiting to settle in on roles, or are we starting to get worried about that?
It's early, but you don't like the lack of command where you had starters the last 2 days pitch well enough to put you in a comfortable spot, and the bullpen's not done their job. The offense could be a little bit better too with some instances. Hard game, but I like this early schedule, and you got to meet the challenge, even though it is pretty tough where you go from Louisville. K-State's not in that ilk, but you didn't have answers for what they did to you yesterday, and now you get Florida State. Auburn looms as well.
Well, you're playing. I mean, the way they set up the schedule, and Nebraska softball is doing the same thing. Is you're playing in February for May. That's why I say today is a must-win, because you brought up you go to number 9 Auburn yesterday, which beat Florida State in Arlington yesterday. You're 3-3. You've lost 3. It was, it's ironic. We were talking about it yesterday on the show about the middle relief and trying to figure out those roles. And eventually Nebraska did last year. But there's a concern there because that role is not for everybody. Okay. But now I have an additional concern. Do we need to be concerned about Mantle as the closer? I mean, he was not locked down yesterday when they brought him in, but because you're still trying to figure out roles in that middle relief, you've got 2 number ones. Okay. Nebraska's first 2 starters are good enough to carry in the Big Ten. Okay. But because you don't trust anybody early on in the season out of that bullpen, you probably went, in my opinion, a bat or 2 far yesterday with your starter. Because once you walk a couple of guys and you hit a guy and you can see that they're starting to run out of gas, I think you got to go to the pin. But if you don't trust anybody there and you trust a guy that might be on his last couple of pitches more than a guy in the pin, that says everything I need to know. So they need to figure out those roles. And again, that's not easy to do because that's not for everybody. But the other concern is this lineup, as veteran as it is, and I like their lineup 1 through 9. I don't like the fact that they have been handcuffed by a bullpen guy that is going through the lineup 2 times, is going through the lineup 3 times, and he's still putting up zeros. The guy for K-State's pitching yesterday was really good. They bridged 2 guys, their starter, and then they brought in the reliever for 4.5. So I don't like that aspect, but today's a bounce back day. However it looks today, I think they got to win against Florida State because of what's looming next week at number 9 Auburn, and Auburn's playing really well. And you're going to be playing them and their home ballpark.
They need to get it figured out for sure. It's interesting to just got a text message from some Wahoo listeners. They're fired up about Selection Sunday, man.
Hey, we'll bring Mick Anderson, all the in-bodies, all the Glocks, all of them right there. We will be in the town square of Wahoo 3 weeks from today.
There's the the bar up there that is.
There's a Dairy Queen.
Oh, Dairy Queen's wrong.
And a Pizza Hut, right? and a run.
You gotta have a Pizza Hut.
Do they have a water park? That's the important thing.
The good question.
I don't think so. They do have a lake that's not very far away.
The best small to mid-sized towns in Nebraska, I judge them based on the quality of their water park.
Hey, I will get people from Weston, which is just outside of Wahoo, to come as well. Yeah.
Titles is where we're looking at it being.
That's the name of the bar?
Yeah.
Is Titles?
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting name.
I didn't misread it. It's not another name, Charlie.
I mean, I know some people from Wahoo, and they get after it a little bit. That's okay. That's okay. All right.
Spring ball.
I like that.
Spring ball thoughts. Nebraska got after it yesterday. Some videos out.
Yeah.
There's work to do.
Why didn't Dana Holgorsen use Barney correctly last year? Was that Jacory or was that Dana? Or was that a combination of both?
Combo. I mean, there are things that you wanted to use Barney for. I just, maybe it's too simple, but get him beyond the pop pass, right? I mean, that's something he does well, and you got him in the red zone for that first touchdown from Latif against UCLA, right? And his quick twitch and yak stuff is so good. Tough ball player. Get him just going over the middle, man, and let him wear people out. Get him in space and find it. The short passing game is something that I think they'll hone in on this year with Calandria, or that's obviously been a staple of what Dana can do and Calandria can do. So, yeah, just don't make it too hard. Get some of those shorter throws and get some yak yards.
And get Bonner back.
He's big time.
I think, I don't know. Listen to Dana the other day, and then you just, man, it wasn't a throwaway season, but 25 just, outside of Emmett, what else came out good out of the 25 season? Because you listen to Dana bounce around about his offense and last year, and you know, we brought this up when Wood got hurt against Cincinnati. I mean, he gives you so many different things that he can do in that offense that I think he would have helped a guy like Barney. He would have helped a guy like Hunter. He would have helped a guy like Lindenmeyer. You know, like somebody that plays both of those kind of roles that could take the onus off you. I mean, that injury probably needs to be more closer to the top of reasons why this didn't work in 25 on that side of the ball. But what was the reaction? You know, and I was, when you're an older guy and you've been around football for over 30 years, and you know, you're not going to play the game with the media. You're going to tell it like it is. You know, there's nothing new you've seen. You're Dana Holgorsen, for friggin' sakes. You're coaching at Nebraska, which is still wild to me. What did you guys react to when he said that it took him until game 6 to figure out what this offense did well, which was inside zone and running duo with a guy that wore 21?
I think there's a tug of war with what they want to do versus what they can do.
And that's strictly on the guy that was playing quarterback last year for those first 6 games?
I think it is. I think they finally, I think after Minnesota, man, they just said, we're not going to jack around anymore. This is how, this gives this offense the best chance to score points, be ball control, and use our best asset, which is Emmett Johnson. Because the game plan for Minnesota was a nightmare. Came out throwing the football against a team that gave up a lot of yards rushing, at least statistically. And you had no desire to go run the football. I think you were trying to highlight a 5-star quarterback.
And that's probably where Dana gets a mulligan on what, because let's be honest, if you get Dana Holgorsen as your offensive coordinator and you're a place like Nebraska and you're like, that guy is friggin' calling plays here, we haven't gotten our return on investment, not even close to what he does in his mind. And the motion and the mesh and all of that kind of stuff on a consistent basis to get guys to play in space and play the chess versus checkers is now he's got a quarterback that probably is not going to handcuff you, that gives you more options to do what you want to do, and also probably let you play a little backyard football.
Yes. You can call whatever the hell you want to call because he'll get you out of trouble if you get in trouble. His mobility. It'll allow you to spread out some use of the weapons. You want to talk about running the football in the running back room and Dana's final thought on, what they should have done in the running back room. The way he talks, he is all sorts of fired up about the receiver room. So it's not that you won't run it or you'll be afraid to run it, but I think push comes to shove. He wants to throw the football around, but be able to run it. And I don't think they were as effective in decision making with throwing the football last year, and that's where they settled in after 6 games. It took the Minnesota just bludgeoning for them to force their hand because they came out against Maryland, ran the football, did well, and then a week later, what was it? It was Minnesota, where just offense was horrible. You scored, 6 points? That's all you got? Yeah. You got rolled.
Man, there's a lot of families to feed in that wide receiver room. I will say that.
There is.
26.
Well, I'm curious if Dana gets back to some of the air raid tendencies, the play calls that we expected to see, your dagger route, sail, mesh.
Me 2 backs out of the backfield and throw it too.
It just doesn't feel like Nebraska's offensive coordinator, and I think some Husker fans are probably happy about this. It doesn't feel like your offensive coordinator comes from the air raid tree based on how the offense has looked the last 2 years, not just in terms of run pass split, but in terms of some of the staple air raid concepts that you see in the passing game. You haven't seen at Nebraska, or at least you haven't seen very much at Nebraska. And I wonder if Dana tries to get back to some of those this year with a quarterback that is willing to run those concepts with the handpicked choice that you have in Calandria.
Like Barney's a perfect example. And again, Barney got dinged a little bit, so he was on a bum ankle, and maybe they protected him. You finally saw in the bowl game, they ran a jet sweep with him. I would like to see more motion, but the mesh concepts. Like, I know a lot of people, and we do as well, and there's plenty of them that are, that join us every day that love offensive football, and they like breaking down film, and they actually know what they're talking about, that have been kind of like underwhelmed by what Nebraska's done offensively, because it hasn't been, all, oh my gosh, it's all creative, and they're causing confusion. So maybe just because of your quarterback, your previous quarterback was a little bit stiff. So maybe was the onus of your offense. The offense looks stiff. Now you got a quarterback that, he showed up in the videos yesterday. He's got some swag. We've seen him play at UNLV. He's got a little bounce to him, and he's got a little fluidity to him that maybe that also impacts your offense. But please, little motion, little mesh, and more middle of the field activity. I thought at the end of the year, I was going to invest in the tight ends at Nebraska in the middle of the field. And last 3 games, that was nowhere to be found.
It's such a contrast with targets and usage to Lindenmeyer the first few games. And that went away. You can't do that. And find him in the flat. Good things happened, right? Get Bonner back. That can be a bit of a Swiss Army knife for you.
Jones, I can't wait to watch the spring game. Watch Jones play. The kid's a freak. That was a huge pickup for Nebraska. Now they get to unload him. And if you have Jones and Clark are 2 of your backup wide receivers, because I would imagine after the comments on Thursday, that your top 3 wide receivers are set. There's no wiggle room there. They're going to run with those top 3, but your 3 behind them, not bad. No, not bad. They're going to have a lot of families to feed that want to catch the football in 26.
No, I can't wait to see more from. And I know Dana loves his 3 options, but Clark is such an athlete, and Love the size he brings you. Physical wide receiver. Could be big time. Like and subscribe.
Bonner being back will be a huge asset to the variety of this offense, in my opinion.
Big time comfort for sure. Like and subscribe to the Average Joe Sports Show YouTube, where you go 7 days a week. Twitter, AJ Sports Radio. It's the Iron Horse, Gary Sharp. It's Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt. And Elijah, the merch was on full display last night with some Average Joes out and about around the capital city wearing their Average Joe gear, which was nice. It's always cool to see the Joes wearing the hoodies and T-shirts and all that good stuff.
Yeah. It's just great to see the Average Joe merch out and about. Do you have the picture on your phone?
I think I put it up on Instagram.
It's all right. Just great to see some Average Joe merch out and about. Great to see the Average Joes and Janes. Joes and Janes. So I think we took you through the show yesterday, all the places you can go check out the merch show. Google it up. The Average Joe Sports Show Fourth Wall is what you can Google, or you can find it on all our social media pages as well in the bio.
Good work. Back at you tomorrow at 4 with the Average Joes. Plenty of thoughts on spring ball, Nebraska, and more USA joy. We'll talk to you next time with the Average Joes. Thanks for tuning in.